I'm Joe Marino, host of Locked On Bills, joined by John Butchko, the host of Locked On Jets, here for your crossover Thursday preview of Bills Jets in Week 17. And crossover Thursday is presented by PrizePicks. Download the app, use code LOCKEDONNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. All right, John, it's time for us to talk about the path to victory for each team in this football game. Obviously, the Bills are at home. They're favorites. I think, 9.5 points is kind of where I've seen the line for this football game. The Bills were 14-point favorites over the Patriots. They won by 3. The division games are always a little bit tricky. Teams that know each other. And while, there's still a lot of familiarity here between these two teams. I know that there's been some changes with the Jets, but these teams know each other well. They know the type of football that they want to play. What's the path here for the Jets to go get an upset win on the road?
Joe, I don't think the Jets can win the game. I think the Bills can lose the game. I think if both of these teams play their best, which we haven't seen the Jets play their best all that much this season, the Bills are going to win the game. I think this is going to have to be like one of those where maybe the Bills look past the Jets a little bit. Maybe they play a little sloppy football. Maybe they turn the ball over, and the Jets probably need a performance like Davante Adams had against Jacksonville 2 weeks ago, where went off for close to 200 yards. I think it's going to take something unusual for the Jets to be able to win this game. These teams played a very, very tight game in their first meeting in, I think it was week 6. This is a different scenario for the Jets. I think the losses have piled up. You've seen the frustration mount. It's not clear what the Jets lineup is going to look like for this in this game. Quinnen Williams missed the game last week against the Rams, and the Rams just ran the ball at will. The Rams barely tried to throw the ball in that game because they knew they'd be able to run the ball successfully against the Jets. And that first meeting back in October, Bills went out, and that was one of the most physical opening drives you'll ever see, where the Bills barely threw the ball. Maybe they threw it once or twice, went right down the field and scored a touchdown. I just think there have also been some rumblings, nothing firm, but there have been some rumblings that maybe some Jets players are starting to check out a little bit, looking to the offseason, which happens in the lost season sometimes when you get to week 17. So I think unusual things need to happen. I think the Jets will need some big performances. Again, maybe Davante Adams has a huge game. Maybe Garrett Wilson has a huge game. I think the Bills need to make mistakes in this game. I think they'll need to turn the ball over. Maybe the Jets need to steal a possession here or there. Run a fake kick or something like that. But I think it's that kind of game. I don't think I think if these teams line up, Buffalo should win. I think there's a lot working against the Jets in this one. So the Jets' path to victory is I think is more, do the Bills lose the game themselves? Because I think if the Bills come out and execute, they're going to win the game.
Yeah, you mentioned that first Bills-Jets game. We remember it well, John. Lazard down the seam, Williams down the red line, right? The red line, that became the phrase of the year, seemingly. And Aaron Rodgers throws Mike Williams under the bus. The next thing you know, he's gone. Interesting situation there. I think you have the right idea on this game. The Bills would need to lose it, and I think they can. I think the Bills have proven throughout their even their time as one of the better teams in the league is that they can have this type of game. They've had it to the Jets before. They've had it to the Patriots. They lost last year to New England. That 4-win team, that picked number 3 in the draft, they lost to the Urban Meyer Jaguars. This stuff happens. They will lose a game. Now, typically they don't later in the season. They're very good in December. I think they've lost 3 games since 2020 in December. 2 of them were in 2021, if I'm not mistaken. So they take care of their business late typically, but it's obviously interesting with the seeding implications. If the Chiefs win on Christmas Day, which we're recording this before Christmas, so we don't know what happens with that game. The Bills could be in a situation where they can't be the 1 seed and, they can win one of their last 2 and be the 2, which is probably important to them. But those probably make some careful choices with players and making sure that, they can be healthy and playing their best going into the postseason. So I think you got the right formula there. For me, the Bills' path to victory is, number 1, is get back to being efficient in the passing game offensively. Nervous a little bit about Josh Allen out of that Patriots game where, holding onto the ball, average depth of target, percentage of deep throws, lack of percentage of throws to check downs, some off-target throws. It was like a bad recipe. Not a disaster performance, but it was so far away from what we saw for a long stretch, and it looked a little bit like what we saw back against Houston and Baltimore, that gives me a little bit of a concern. I think he can correct that very quickly. But, nonetheless, a game that you hope doesn't turn into a pattern here down the stretch. Number 2 is the Bills' corners have to win. Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson are good. And the Bills will have Christian Benford, their best corner, who's emerged as one of the best young corners in the entire NFL. But will they get Rasul Douglas back this week? He's missed the last 2 with the knee injury. Kyer Elam has started in place, and Kyer Elam's a first-round pick that's talented, but Rasul Douglas is the more consistent and savvy player in this Bills scheme, and they want to run some more man coverage, which they've kind of cranked up lately, and those will be some good matchups. That's good on good, right? Adams and Wilson versus Benford and Douglas, or Benford and Elam. So that'll be a fun matchup to watch, and I think obviously they probably want to get some production there for Wilson to get that third 1,000-yard season. So that's a matchup the Bills have to come away with. There's going to be battles won for both sides of it, right? It's good on good. But who's going to win the war, I think, will be a big factor in this game. And then number 3 is don't have a breakdown on special teams. The Bills had one last week. They gave up a fake punt where they weren't ready. They didn't have the right personnel on the field. They gave up a big return to start the game. And the Jets typically are pretty good on special teams. And, when you think about a game that you're worried about getting away from you, that you, like you said, if you go out and just play the game you're supposed to play, the Bills will win this game. But where are the margins? Where can that get away from you? And special teams certainly stands out to me as an opportunity for the Jets to steal a possession or take a possession or get a big play and get points. So the Bills will have to be careful there to not let that be a contributing factor to a letdown game against the Jets.
So I guess we could say great minds think alike. I think we're kind of on the same page in this game.
Yeah, I agree with you, John. I think we do see it the same way, but we both acknowledge, that there is a path for both sides of this, and certainly with the Bills coming off of a pretty tight win over New England, where they were down 14 before you can blink early in the game. Hopefully, that for the Bills side of things, that's a learning lesson. But obviously, it's the National Football League, man. You said you've been watching it for 30 years. Me too, man. It's you know how this stuff goes.